Hello everybody, in today's video I thought I'd give you my top 20 favorite roller coasters that I've personally done in Pennsylvania. I'll be at Waldameer very soon again, but the 2 credits I still need there won't be good enough to make this list anyway. A kiddie coaster and SPS spinner won't make it, so I've ridden 35 different coasters in the state of Pennsylvania, 37 after I go back to Waldameer, and I've been to 6 different parks in the state. And this state really does have some awesome coasters. I haven't been to every park, like Conneaut Lake, Idlewild, Dutch Wonderland, or Sesame Place. The parks I have been to in Pennsylvania are Waldameer, Kennywood, Lakemont Park, Knoebels, Dorney Park, and Hershey Park. And I've had a lot of coasters closed for me. None of these parks do I have every credit at. For example, some notable ones I haven't ridden are the following: Steel Curtain, Storm Runner, Super Duper Looper, Flying Turns, Impulse, and Possessed. Shout out to those 6 coasters, they look great. I've seen all of them in person, but they were all closed when I went. And out of all of those, I was only expecting Steel Curtain and Possessed to actually be open, so those are bummers. But let's get into the actual list. I know a lot of coasters in the state are closed at the time, but I would still highly recommend that you take a trip in this area. Pennsylvania has some really amazing amusement parks, so here we go with the list. I just want to give one honorable mention before we start the actual list. So this is pretty much number 21. But this coaster that barely missed the cut was Twister at Knoebels. I was expecting much more out of this coaster. I expected it to be almost as good as Phoenix and one of the best coasters in Pennsylvania. And unfortunately, it just wasn't that for me. The Twister crew wouldn't let me ride in the back, and that really ticked me off. I did it in the front both times I rode it, and that probably played a factor in it. Usually wooden coasters are better in the back to me, so overall I had a very frustrating experience with Twister. So starting off the real list at number 20 is Wildcat or Hershey Park. This is an extremely rough roller coaster. It was the first coaster GCI ever created, and you can definitely tell it is, but it's so hilariously painful that it's fun. The airtime is good, and it makes seal noises at the end. I thought I was in Zoo America. I mean, what isn't there to love about this coaster, really? Of course, it's not an amazing ride, but it's fun, and I really don't want them to RMC it. I'd rather Hershey Park build one from the ground up. I did this roller coaster twice, and I was screaming with serious joy on it. I had a blast on it. Number 19 is Skyrocket at Kennywood. The first coaster I did when I went to Kennywood last year. I looked at this coaster before I was even an enthusiast. I looked up theme parks in Pennsylvania, and I found Kennywood. I looked it up on YouTube and watched the Skyrocket POV. It looked really cool, and I finally rode it on August 6, 2019. What a cool coaster. The restraints are very interesting. They're pretty good. The launch is great, and the top hat hill is very fun. The inversions are solid. It's a very solid coaster. It's not anything amazing, but it's a good ride that I'm glad opened just before I went there. Number 18 is the Lightning side of Lightning Racer, and number 17 is the Thunder side of Lightning Racer. They're both extremely similar, obviously. I did the Lightning side twice and only Thunder side once, and that Thunder side ride was my best ride out of the 3 I got on Lightning Racer, so it's the better side of me. It's not extremely smooth, but I think it might be the smoothest GCI I've ridden. It's barely my favorite GCI I've ridden, and both sides have awesome airtime. The tunnel on it is awesome, and it's right next to the water park, and it really looks nice next to it. Overall, they're very fun rides. Number 16 is Talon, the very fun B&M inverted coaster at Dorney Park. I didn't expect much from this coaster at all. I expected it to be one of the worst coasters I've ever ridden, and it was awesome. It's far from one of the best coasters I've ever ridden, but it's a very fun ride. I did it in the front twice and back once. It's a front row coaster to me. Talon was my biggest surprise of the entire trip, or one of them. I'm glad I loved it. It's fun, intense, and the inversions gave solid whip. I never loved inverts before I started to hate them, and that's the case for this one. I mean, I do love it, but it's nothing world class. I think it's a very good ride, but it's not out of this world. Hopefully more inverts in the future will be a little more like this though. Number 15 is Great Bear at Hershey Park. I did prefer this to Talon. I only rode this in the back because I loved the whip on this thing. I wasn't expecting some of the inversions on my first ride, and even though I knew where they were on my next 5 rides, they were still awesome. The reason it's just above Talon is because it's more whippy and the drop is better. It is shorter, but it's still a great roller coaster. Number 14 is Laugh Track, also at Hershey Park. So it was extremely hot, 97 degrees and completely sunny, literally no clouds. The theming and ride looked cool to begin with, and it was. I think it's very underrated. It's a spinning coaster, and it's definitely my favorite spinning coaster. It's not just cool as far as the coaster goes. The temperature was very cool too. It's completely air conditioned, and I loved riding this. I did it 4 times and loved every ride on it. The glowing lights are really cool too because they make lightly colored things like your shirts and like shoelaces glow in the queue and on the ride. It's a really cool place to be in, and you need to check this out. It barely had a line. Please go ride this thing. Number 13 is Skyliner at Lakemont Park. This is such a weird roller coaster. It's definitely top 3 when it comes to sketchiest coasters I've ever ridden. It rivals Leap the Dips, also at Lakemont Park. And this ride is very fun. The ride operators don't test the coasters because they probably wouldn't make it with nobody in it, I guess. I don't really know, but I do know that this thing is never given maintenance. Going up the lift hill, the train swerves side to side, and you can hear the wood crunches. I think that's the paint rubbing off on it, but it sounded, felt, and looked like it was about to fall apart. It's a very rough coaster, but it's pretty awesome. It's the first coaster of the trip I did. I did it first in the back, and the drops were really good, and then in the front, the drops were fine, but the best part was at the bottom of the drops when he picked up tons of speed and came up. It rattled you really hard. It was just so funny to ride, but it's a great coaster at an interesting park that should be on your bucket list. At number 12, we have Steel Force at Dorney Park. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This ride disappointed me just a tad. I expected it to be the best ride in the park, and it wasn't that for me. I got 3 rides on it in total, and each one got better than the last. It was in zero way a bad ride. It's got solid floater to Flojector Hills at the end, and it has solid drop into the tunnel, and that helix is pretty intense. Not my favorite, but it's still a great ride. Number 11 is the right side of Racer, with number 10 being the left side. So what I talk about goes for both sides. This coaster gives incredible airtime. It's one of the most underrated coasters I've ridden, if not the most underrated, and it has buzz bars, which people need to realize the buzz bars are no restraints basically. So yeah, you're gonna get airtime. It really frustrates me when people hate on this. Ride it in the back, please. The last hill is the best, and it's not way too far behind the double down on Jackrabbit. Speaking of Jackrabbit, that's number 9, Double Down. POVs give no justice, no peace. Alright, that's inappropriate, MAGA. But anyways, this coaster also has only seatbelts, and we tightened the seatbelt all the way, so it was kind of dangerous the airtime we were getting, but I loved it. There was a group of guys that took their shirt off on it, and I took mine off on the double down. It was pretty awesome. But yeah, anyways, let's move on to number 8. I'm just saying, no other park would be fine with you just taking your shirt off mid-ride. I don't think they were, but we did it anyways. I don't know. On to number 8. And number 8 is Comet at Hershey Park. No moment on here comes extremely close to beating the double down on Jackrabbit, but this coaster also has buzz bars, and the hills on it deliver, every single one. Whether it's from airtime or from laterals, this coaster delivers. There's one hill on the way back that looks like you're about to smack the roof of a building. It's wild, and it's right next to Sky Rush, which is fun to watch as you're getting great airtime and lats. It's really a fun ride, one of the better rides in the park for sure. Number 7 is Fahrenheit, again at Hershey Park. What a great ride. The drop is so good. The inversions are absolutely fantastic, and that airtime hill is awesome. Its restraints aren't amazing, but they work. One underrated moment is on the first inversion. It twists you to the right, and then you go to the left. It's such a cool feeling. And these inversions are super intense. The bottoms have great G-forces. This is such a fun ride. Number 6 is Ravine Flyer 2, the only coaster on here from Waldameer. I think I'm getting on this coaster again very soon. I've ridden it a good amount of times, and it has an amazingly whippy and airtime-filled drop. The first half is better than the second half, and that 90-degree big turn at the end is great along with the tunnels over the highway. This is a very unique gravity group that I recommend you check out sometime. Breaking the top 5 is Phoenix at Knoebels, the only coaster in the top 20 at the park. This is a scary fun ride. It was rated as the world's best wooden coaster by the Golden Ticket Awards, and I definitely don't believe that. It's not even the best wooden coaster I've ridden. It does have buzz bars though, so the airtime is amazing. It's literal standing airtime. In the back, this thing is insane, and I don't know how they're allowed to operate it, and how no one has gotten injured on it, to my knowledge. Something I want to note is Knoebels gives appreciation to the Golden Ticket Award voting in the tunnel for the lift hill, which I thought was nice. Just what a great roller coaster. That's easily the best ride I rode at Knoebels. Number 4 is Candymonium at, can you guess which park? Hershey Park. It's branded as the sweetest coaster on earth, and I do love the theming. I'm actually wearing a Candymonium shirt right now as I'm doing this voiceover. It's themed to candy, and what isn't to love? The queue is awesome with really cool lights changing color, and the trains are really cool along with the sign. But the ride experience, yeah, I was expecting it to be a little better, but I realized that I rode Behemoth when I thought Floater was better than Ejector. Now I like Ejector more, so Candymonium just wasn't as good, but it's still a very fun ride. The drop is good in every row, and that twisty hill at the end gives awesome airtime. Overall, it's a great ride and the second best ride I rode in the park. Starting the top 3 is Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. This coaster is honestly insane. It starts off with a curved drop, then goes into a huge drop that makes it a hyper coaster. You can really feel the speed on this drop, and then after that is awesome ejector airtime hills. But this ride hasn't always been this way. It was originally called Steel Phantom, and it was an aerodynamics custom looping coaster, and now it's a Morgan hyper coaster. The lap bar is far from your body, so you get insane room and airtime. The double down I found is overrated, but the hill before it right next to the station is a top 3, probably top 2 airtime moment I've experienced. You go flying like nothing else. It's also fairly intense, and it has an awesome setting. I actually did find this coaster to be worse in the back, better in the front, and even better in the middle. So I don't know if it's because the coaster kept warming up. I thought that was very interesting. Some people call this the best coaster in Pennsylvania, and I can definitely see and respect that. So on to the number 2 spot, we have Hydra, the Revenge at Dorney Park in Allentown. This was another huge surprise. I knew it would be a great floorless coaster, but I didn't expect it to be the best. Superman Krypton coaster is considered the best by most enthusiasts, but I've only ridden 3, and I disagree. Hydra beats it for me for a few reasons. It could even crack my top 10. I don't know. We'll see. I think it does though. That JoJo roll to start it out is amazing. It gives the best hang time I've ever experienced in my entire life. Your whole body is just pressed to your restraint, and it's a really awesome sensation. Then the drop happens, and yes, this drop is one of my favorites of all time. Wow, I was not expecting this at all. Something that helps this coaster out is there are tons of rocks underneath the coaster, so it looks like you're about to dive hard into the massive rocks. It's such a cool feeling. And the inversions are fun and really forceful. It didn't feel insanely short, it satisfied me, and I left every ride wanting more. There's not too much of a question that it's my favorite coaster at Dorney Park, and a really underrated roller coaster. So now at number 1 we have Sky Rush, aka Dyke Rush, the intimate hyper coaster at Hershey Park. Wow, where to begin? This coaster would have been special to me either way because it was my 100th different coaster credit. I've been waiting for this for a while, and I'm so grateful that it was this ride. Because some coasters, some other people get coasters like Limit at Hyde Park, kind of like Harry from Coaster Bot. Not that it looks like a bad ride, but what would you choose, Limit or Sky Rush? 99.9 of you probably chose Sky Rush. So I had to wait to do this ride. I rode 6 coasters at Hershey Park before I finally rode this, and the wait was certainly worth it. So my first ride was back row left wing seat, and this is the best seat on the ride, I can tell you that. So you start off with a cable lift that takes you up extremely fast to the top, so there's barely time to prepare for the wildest drop I think anybody could ever experience. Now I seriously don't know if I like this drop or not. There's no drop that matches this thing as far as intensity goes. You drop, and it's pretty normal at first, but then at the bottom the restraints tighten up, and it feels like you're in an airplane that just fell out of the sky. It's like an airplane crash, I'm telling you. So it feels like at the bottom of the drop it becomes steeper, and it picks up about 20 miles an hour. I don't think it actually does that, but it definitely feels like it. It's the most insane drop I've experienced, but I don't know if I'd call it my favorite. I think I'd still give that to Steel Vengeance because that's more fun ejector airtime, but the drop legit scared me. I've never had an element scare me like that before. Like, I was sweating every single time because of it. It was also 100 degrees, but still, I was nervous. You can't explain the drop, really. You just have to ride it for yourself. This is a top 3 best moment on a coaster I've experienced. However, I'm not too sure I truly enjoyed it because it felt like I was going to break my back every time. I legit thought I would become paralyzed from it. And it's definitely more insane in the back row left side wing seat. So other than the drop, this coaster has insane ejector airtime. You don't really come out of your seat because of the restraints squeezing the life out of you. Although at the same time, the airtime is so powerful that you do. And the turn after the second hill is very intense. Turning left, your hand might be able to touch the tree, but it's very hard to stick it out because of the ride being so forceful. And the second hill doesn't give me as much of a head chopper as I thought it would, but it was still amazing. The first off-axis hill was insane and underrated, but the second one made me feel like I was going to fly out of my seat every time. Yes, it was so insane that I thought I would fly out even with these restraints. So then, after that is a really underrated ejector hill, and then you fly into the brakes, and then it turns right and dives down into the real final brakes. And at this point, you can just see people looking up at you and laughing like sucks to be you, because you really can't breathe at this point because of the restraints. But that doesn't take away the fact that this ride is insane. That adds to it, in my opinion. And a few times when they were running 2 trains, their ride-ups let the restraints come up a tad while we were sitting on the brakes, because they dig into you so much, so I thought that was nice. It's got a nice setting, it's insane, it's intense, and it was my 100th coaster, so it'll always be special to me. I rode this coaster 18 times in total in 2 days, because it didn't have big lines at all, only in the front. So yeah, this ride is insane. It's definitely the best ride at Hershey Park that I did. Of course, Storm Runner is closed for the season, so I'll have to get on it next year. But for now, Sky Rush is the best coaster I've ridden in the state of Pennsylvania. So that'll do it for the video. Thanks for watching. Let me know how you feel about this video in the comments. There were some shockers and some disappointments. This state really is an awesome place for amusement park rides. Hopefully you'll like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later.